Russia is currently making its biggest territorial gain in Ukraine since the summer, and all signs point to this latest offensive as just the beginning. We're going to look at the latest from the front lines and what such developments suggest for the coming days, and make sure to stick with me to the very end of this video when we'll find out what all of this means for the rise of what they're calling a new civilizational order. You're not going to want to miss this. Reports are coming out that Russian troops have indeed taken over the eastern Ukrainian city of Soledar, just north of the city of Bakhmut in the Donbass region, which is increasingly coming under full and total Russian control. It's being reported that Russian troops, particularly the Wagner paramilitary outfit, has taken over the vast majority of the city. There are and continue to be apparently some pockets of Ukrainian resistance on the western side of the city, but they appear to be increasingly futile. Alex and Alexander, our good friends over at the Duran, were just talking about this. Soledar and Bakhmut are two very strategic places in that if they fall, a whole host of other losses of multiple positions for Ukraine across the Donbass region falls as well, and that only solidifies the regions that Russia has annexed. If you recall, back in September, the Russian Federation annexed 4 formerly Ukrainian regions. These are the 2 breakaway republics in the Ukrainian Donbass region, Donetsk and Lugansk, as well as the regions of Kherson and Zaporozhye. They all held a number of referendums a few months back, very similar to what Crimea did several years back, and they, like Crimea, officially joined the Russian Federation. So Russia sees these now 5 regions as a permanent and integral part of Russia, and any and all military offenses against those regions have and are being treated as an invasion of the territorial sovereignty of Russia itself. And Soledar and Bakhmut are integral to not only the defense of those regions, but are seen as strategic points in which these regions are solidified and fortified under permanent Russian control. As a result of the takeover, The Hill is reporting that Russia is on the verge of its biggest territorial gain in Ukraine since the summer, around the time President Putin announced the end of the special military operation. The attack, particularly on Kherson by Ukrainian troops since September, is now treated as an invasion of Russia. Talk about flipping the narrative. And now, in place of the very limited special military operation, Putin has been preparing reservists and several 100,000 troops to go and finish this once and for all. At least that's the plan, as I understand it, from Russia's side of things. Now, as many of you know, if you've been following this channel for some time now, my analysis of what's happening between Russia and Ukraine is very, very different from the more ideological analysis that you're going to hear from the legacy media, including Fox News. For the exception of Tucker Carlson, we see things very similarly. I think it bears repeating that a number of geopolitical analysts believe that the relentless eastward expansion of NATO is at least in part responsible for this horrific conflict. I was just talking about this with some folks the other day. A lot of people don't realize this, but NATO has gone from 17 member nation states in 1990 to 30 nations today. It's nearly doubled in size. And there's a widely held sentiment among a number of academics, John Mearsheimer of the University of Chicago, George F. Kennan of Harvard, even Henry Kissinger, who I'm frankly no fan of, but even he recognized that brazen NATO eastward expansion was denounced and opposed by every single head of Russia, from Gorbachev to Yeltsin to Putin to Medvedev, back to Putin. Every single Russian leader told NATO, do not do this. We consider NATO weapons and troops at our border an existential threat, just like you did with the Cuban Missile Crisis. You've been warned, don't do this. And our Western leaders turned a deaf ear for the last 2 decades to those warnings. But no one, and I mean no one, could foresee what was going to happen. And we're talking long before this war broke out. This eastward expansion of NATO actually had the effect of awakening quite literally a sleeping giant, a civilizational colossus that would change the world in ways NATO leaders never even imagine. You're not going to want to miss this. But first, it's times like these when I'm so thankful for the amazing reporting and informationally rich news resources coming from the Epoch Times. And now I'm so excited to announce the launch of Epoch TV. Epoch TV is a censorship-free video platform with original news programs like Crossroads, Larry Elder Show, Facts Matter, American Thought Leaders, and documentaries investigating critical issues that are not covered anywhere else. It's absolutely amazing. And to make it even better, they now have a special offer just for our viewers. Just click on that link below, sign up, start watching, no credit card required. It's amazing stuff, no strings attached. And if you decide to subscribe within 14 days, it's just $1 for 2 months. You heard that right, $1 for 2 months. So what are you waiting for? It's amazing. Click on that link below or go to watchepoch.com/Turley and subscribe today. Starting around the year 2012, just a few years after NATO offered Ukraine membership, scholars noticed a dramatic civilizational turn in Vladimir Putin's speeches. Starting around 2012, Putin began talking about the necessity of reviving the ancient Orthodox Russian world in order for Russia to ultimately overthrow what he called in a recent speech the insane satanic forces of the woke West. Jordan Peterson noticed this in one of his recent interviews, where he argued that Putin's weaponization of anti-woke sentiment among the Russian population, and I would also add to that among the vast majority of the non-Western world, is a civilizational weaponization. It's not so much a political weaponization or even an ideological weaponization per se. The war against the woke West is for Putin a thoroughly civilizational war. It's a clash between mutually exclusive civilizations, one that promises to be a brave new progressive world guided by absurdity and woke insanity versus a 1,000-year Russian civilization guided by the bedrock of religion and tradition. Now, you can think all of that is just utter bunk, but that is precisely what Putin has been saying in his speeches from at least 2010, 2012, when scholars noted that his speeches took on that very stark civilizational turn, that Russia was in a great civilizational conflict with a decadent and decaying West, and thus was born the first bona fide civilizational state. Civilization states are states that are redrawing their boundaries around ancient civilizational spheres like the Slavic Orthodox world of Imperial Russia, which of course includes Ukraine, or the Sino-Confucian sphere of ancient China and the Hindu nationalist sphere of ancient India. And the key here is that it's believed that civilizations are alone big enough to take on the globalist powers of NATO and the WEF. Small little nations simply can't do that, whereas revived civilizations, particularly in alliance with one another, like Russia, China, and India, most certainly can. And so this conflict goes way beyond simply autocracy versus democracy. This is a clash of civilizations, and it is one that the rising Russian world plans to win. As always, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. You'll definitely want to check out my latest video on Bumbling Biden imploding, as the second stash of classified documents have been found. You're not going to want to miss it, so make sure to click on that link, and I'll see you over there. God bless.